Welcome everybody to Space Truckers, episode number 1. You guys seem to enjoy the pilot, so we're going to continue with this series. We're going to see how it goes, how it pans out, and hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it. So the format's going to be exactly the same. I'm going to be doing a long distance trading run, and I'm going to talk about stuff along the way. So a couple of bits of advice I decided to take. Wasn't really Space Truckers driving around in a Cobra Mark III, so I've upgraded to the Lakon Type 6 Heavy. And I like that a few people were putting topics that they'd like me to talk about in the comment section, so I'm going to encourage people to continue doing that going forward. If you want to hear anything about a specific topic, or even just a very general topic, then leave a comment in the comment section. I'll take a look at them, and I might pick a few of them to talk about. Today's topic is going to be sci-fi. It's going to be quite a big topic, so it may span a couple of videos, but I'm going to talk. I thought today I'd start talking about other sci-fi games that I really enjoyed that I played in the past and present. And if time, then I'll move on to sci-fi movies and sci-fi TV series that I enjoy, and I might even move on to some real science after that, but we'll see if there's time and if I feel like boring you guys enough. So today's topic is going to be sci-fi. I won't get into it until we're out in space though. Today's trade run, it's going to be 6 jumps, a round trip of 66 light years, because I'm in the Lakon Type 6 now. And we are going to be taking crop harvesters from where we are in Tillian. We are going to be taking them to Aulis, and then we are going to be bringing tea back from Aulis back to Tillian. Unable to attain market listings. Interesting. Bear with me. So the game, for some reason, once again, forgot that I'd purchased it, so I just had to log out and log back in the launcher. So we are buying machinery crop harvesters, and we are taking these to Aulis. And I'm taking the other advice, which is never sink all of your money into a single trade run. I always want to try and keep cash aside. As you can see here, 84,000. Keep cash aside for insurance costs if everything should go horribly, horribly wrong. And I think I've read that insurance costs generally run about 10% of the cost of your ship and 10% the cost of your equipment. So I always want to try and keep around about I think it was 20,000, or was it 40,000? I don't remember 100% how much it was, but it was I'll double check. But one other piece of equipment that I've invested in is something called a heat sink, because I've noticed this ship, especially when it's making lots of jumps into separate systems, it tends to get very, very hot. So I have invested in a heat sink just because if, say, I'm getting interdicted by some pirates and trying to run away, and because I've just made 3 jumps, my engines overheat and I start taking extra damage, it's not going to be very good at all. So yeah, invested in a heat sink so I can dump some of that extra heat. Right, where are we going first? We are going to Owlin. So we will lock destination. Oops, wrong button. This thing handles a hell of a lot worse than the Cobra Mark III. It is a bit of a pig when it comes to handling, but you know, this is Space Truckers, it's not Space Sexy Pirates. So, oh my god, right, gotta be careful here. I do have windows. Now, I didn't want to burn too much heat just before we even make our first jump. As you can see, we're hovering around there, and if I use the boost, that would put our heat up considerably. I'm sure there was one other thing I wanted to say before we got into today's topic, but it seems to have escaped my mind right now. So without further ado, we'll jump into today's topic, which is sci-fi, general sci-fi, and I thought I'd start with gaming. So obviously Elite was my first experience with sci-fi gaming. I've always been a massive fan of RTS games, real-time strategy games. So, obviously with the Command and Conquer series, and I've always been a big sci-fi fan, which is why the original Elite sort of was so dear to my heart. And I really did enjoy it and love it so much. So it was sort of a natural progression to try and add love of RTS into love of sci-fi as well. And I think because you'll obviously, I'll tell you more about this when we talk about the film and TV series portion of Sci-Fi, but I've always been a massive Star Trek fan. I am a self-confessed Trekkie. I used to be a massive Trekkie back when I was a lot younger, but so games like Starfleet Command were always very, very good for me because, like I said, they're a mixture of strategy and they had the sci-fi elements that I really enjoyed in there. Being a massive Trekkie, they were always good. I'll tell you, one of the first big experiences with strategy games and sci-fi was a very old game called Birth of the Federation. It was basically a turn-based 4X strategy game, but set in the Star Trek universe, if you want to go and Google that. And we used to, when I was a student, we used to live... Yeah, I'm up to 150% heat here. I'm going to have to lose some of this heat before we make the next jump. When I was a student, we all lived in accommodation together. A lot of us lived together, so we had a LAN set up in our house. And if I slow down, does this burn quicker? Does the heat dissipate quicker? I'm not sure. So yeah, we used to have a LAN in our student house. And over this LAN, we would obviously play things like Birth of the Federation. And Birth of the Federation, like I said, 4X turn-based strategy game set in the Star Trek universe. It was fantastic. And we used to play this for days and days on end. The game itself would probably last you about 4 or 5 days of play. I'm not jumping yet because I want to try and dissipate some of this heat. Because if I get caught short on the way to Owless Station, I'm going to be in serious trouble. So I'm going to allow this heat to get down to about 100% before making the next jump. So a game of sort of Birth of the Federation would last sort of 4 or 5 days, and you'd have to save and you'd have to continue. And we would play this for days and days on end, and it was fantastic. Like I said, one of my first experiences with science fiction and sort of strategy games, 4X strategy game set in the Star Trek universe, was fantastic. And I'm not even sure if modern computers could run it, to be honest, because it's such an old game. It's going to be quite difficult to get it to run on a modern machine. So that's a bit of a shame, though. But if you Google Birth of the Federation, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it was an absolutely brilliant, brilliant turn-based game. And I think from there, that's what led into Starfleet Command and other such games like that. And they sort of fell by the wayside. I remember when Star Trek Online announced and it was going to come out, I pre-ordered that shit straight away on day one, and I was very, very excited for Star Trek Online, which you can imagine my disappointment when it actually released. Disappointment was quite... disappointment was very real, which was a shame because that really did have a lot of potential. It had the potential to be a fantastic game. It just missed the mark on a lot of different points. So, I mean, the mission set in space, they were all fantastic, but there was the ground stuff was really clunky. I think they used the same engine that the company who made Champions Online were the same company that made Star Trek Online, and I think they just used the exact same engine for space combat and ground combat, so it was just really clunky and didn't quite work. Storyline was good, but I never got to maximum level in that. Now it's free to play. I tried to go back, but unfortunately all of my pre-order items that I got for pre-ordering the game, when the company changed hands, they all went missing. I sent multiple tickets in about it, never got a response, so I was just like, well, fuck you, I'm not playing your game anymore then. So yeah, Star Trek Online was a massive, massive disappointment, unfortunately. It was good for a while, but kind of fell by the wayside because it just wasn't that great a game, unfortunately. Missed the mark on a few points. Here we go, like I was saying, interdiction. What are we on now? 129% heat. We should be okay. Hopefully they haven't spawned right on top of us. We'll just get some... we'll just boost away, see where they spawn in. Hopefully not right on top of us. Hopefully we don't overheat too much. I don't think I'm taking very much damage at all. Frame shift still cooling down. Oh, that looks like a... No, it's probably an NPC. We'll boost. I don't think I quite need to use the heatsink just yet. We should be able to get away no problem whatsoever here. So yeah, science fiction gaming didn't really take that long as I expected to talk about, so I guess we'll talk about TV and films as well. So as I've already said, I am a massive Star Trek fan, a massive Trekkie. I think first experience with Star Trek was probably Star Trek The Next Generation, because I'm of that age. I was not old enough to see the original Star Trek, although I have watched a lot of the original Star Trek. It's a completely different series. It's very tongue-in-cheek, and it's actually quite funny, especially when you watch it, because I used to work late nights when I did bar work, so I used to come in from work at sort of 3:30, 4 in the morning, and it would just be when Star Trek would be on the Sci-Fi channel, and I'd sit down with maybe a pizza or something and watch Star Trek, the original series, at sort of 4 in the morning. And they were good times. But yeah, Star Trek The Next Generation was really my first experience with Star Trek. Obviously, I'd seen sci-fi series before that. I'd watched a lot of Battlestar Galactica, the original series, but obviously these are reruns as well. And I think I'm trying to remember some of the other original sci-fi series that I watched, but none immediately spring to mind. Probably should have planned out this speech a little bit better than I actually have. So, original Battlestar Galactica was excellent as well. It was a lot more serious than the original Star Trek, which is a little bit strange to say, really. But if you go back and watch them, you can definitely see what I mean. So, watched a lot of Star Trek The Next Generation religiously, in fact. I think I've probably seen near enough every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. And then after that was, well, there was Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which might as well have just been called Star Trek EastEnders. It was just a sitcom set in space, and it wasn't really that good a series, to be honest. It was decidedly average for a Star Trek franchise. After that came Star Trek Voyager, and I know you're not supposed to say this, but I actually quite liked Star Trek Voyager. I think it was a combination of it came around at the kind of the right time. I was the right age to sort of fully grasp what was going on, and it was the right kind of series. Now, like I said, I know you're not really supposed to say that as a Trekkie that you enjoyed Star Trek Voyager, but I really did enjoy Star Trek Voyager. I mean, once you got past the first couple of seasons, which to be honest were a bit rough, they were actually the episodes got a hell of a lot better, and really did enjoy them as they progressed on further. Just having a look at the distance we are from Owlus here. I think we probably want to reset our speed about now. And we'll hit a full stop just so I don't accidentally crash when I'm navigating these menus. There we go. Docking permission granted. Right, hopefully we can get in here without losing it like I did the other time. I was just coming in for a landing and I almost lost it. Didn't really lose control, but just kind of sort of took my eye off the ball and lost what I was doing and where I was going. A couple of times I've noticed as well, as I've been coming into stations, even within the no fire zone, people have sort of opened fire on me. I don't know if it's because they've maybe scanned the cargo, but I didn't get a warning, or they just see that I'm a Lakon Type 6 and think, well, I'm going to have a go at that. Maybe I can destroy him, take his cargo and jump out, but a few times people have opened fire on me as I've been coming into the station. Even at this distance, people have tried to open fire. Where are we? Pad 37. Pad 37 is over there. Need to take into account the length of this ship as well, because I think it is a little bit bigger than the Cobra Mark III. We'll come in for a landing. So, yeah, Star Trek Voyager. Really enjoyed it. Not supposed to say that. The ending was a bit... There's one thing I don't like Star Trek Voyager for, and that is they really trivialized the big bad guy of the Star Trek franchise, which is the Borg. Just want to have a look here, make sure I'm not going to crash on that road. Because, I mean, the Borg had always been the big bad guy of Star Trek in films, in The Next Generation, in everything, basically. They were always the go-to big bad guy that you could always rely on to put the shits up everybody. But Voyager kind of seemed to trivialize the Borg by the end. And it was sort of, especially with the last episodes, where they just... In sort of the last series where they would meet a Borg cube and they'd just be like, let's just leave, let's just get out of here. And it was like, well, that never would have happened to Picard. Picard had come up against a Borg cube. He'd have been captured and turned into one of the Borg. In fact, he did. So, yeah, I don't like Voyager for sort of trivializing the threat of the Borg. That doesn't really sit well with me. But the series overall, really, really enjoyed it. 72,900 profit, and we are taking T back. I don't know why... It's quite so loud inside here. Feels like the ship is fairly loud. Right, that is our T boat. So we are going to be heading back to Tillian. Like I was saying before, it's I'm not always going to be doing round trips and ending up back in the same station. Like next episode, I'll fly out of Tillian, I'll end up somewhere else and I'll stay there rather than making a round trip and coming full circle back to Tillian. Wow, I don't know if it's just me, but that seems really, really loud. There we go, that's a bit better. I think it was just... Oh, God, there's debris. Someone's not had a very good time launching. Oh, well. So let's get the heck out of here. Didn't have to use the heatsink in the last journey, which is good. Although a heatsink's really cheap to fit, and it's really cheap to resupply as well with coolant. So definitely a good investment. Luckily, I've never been fired at coming out of a station thus far. People have only seemed to fire at me going into a station, so I'm not really sure what the hell's going on there. So movie-wise, it's a bit more diverse. TV-wise, most of the... whoops, didn't mean to press that. Most of the sci-fi that I have watched is in the form of Star Trek. I did watch the new series of Battlestar Galactica. That was excellently made, I thought. The modern remake of Battlestar Galactica. If you haven't seen it, then you can go pause this video right now and go watch all, what, 5 or 6 seasons of it, and then you can come back and watch the rest of this video. But it's that good, really. New Battlestar Galactica is phenomenally good. Really, really well-made series, really compelling characters, really good storyline. And the ending didn't suck balls, which is always fantastic when a sci-fi series sets itself a goal and then the ending doesn't totally disappoint. And I'm pointing fingers at you, Lost. When the ending doesn't just totally fail to disappoint. It's always good when that happens. So yeah, I haven't gotten around to watching Capricorn 1, I think it is, or Caprica, which is sort of Battlestar Galactica expanded universe type stuff. It's set in the same universe as Battlestar Galactica, but it's set on the colonies and set at a different time. So I haven't really gotten around to watching that. And it's not in the jump list, of course it's not. I'm looking for Owlin. So, navigation, we'll just type it in here. This is what you need to do if the system you're looking for isn't in the list. It is now, it's just there. We will hit jump. So, movie-wise is a lot more diverse than TV-wise. Obviously, watch and enjoy the Star Trek films. Most of them, it does really go the way that people say that every other Star Trek film is a good film, and the others are terrible. It really is like that, which is strange. So, Star Trek films, definitely. Mostly, though, it's just any kind of sci-fi film. Anything with a sci-fi element, I will generally enjoy. I'm trying to think of some very specific examples of maybe not very well-known sci-fi films that I've really enjoyed. That's unusual. The Tillian isn't there either. Where is the sun? I think I'm pointing away from it now, so I will have to look at the galaxy map again. It'll throttle me down. I'll search for Tillian. And we'll jump there. Oh, wow. I somehow planted myself there. Anyway, right, we're going to allow the drives to cool down a little bit before we make this jump. So, good sci-fi films. I mean, they come in all shapes and sizes. You've got action sci-fi, you've got drama, you've got horror, you've got pure sci-fi, as I call it. Event Horizon, one of the best films I've seen to date, probably, because it's sci-fi, it's horror. It combines those elements excellently. Same with Aliens. Another fantastic sci-fi franchise that I've really, really enjoyed over the years. I think it's just because I've generally got a good interest in science in general. I'm very, very interested in physics, so anything science fiction is generally good. I'll tell you, one of the most underrated sci-fi films I've ever seen is a film called Moon, starring Sam Rockwell. That is a fantastic film, Moon. If you haven't seen Moon, go see that as well. Brilliant, brilliant film. Very underrated. It actually stars Kevin Spacey as well. Very underrated. I'm not sure if many people have even heard of it. Main fuel tank is low. Temperature critical. That is fine, because we are here. We'll lock that destination. Please don't be behind the sun. Where is the sun? I feel like the sun is close. It's sort of illuminating the panels. Ah, sod it. We're not on fire. Our heat is holding steady, so we should be alright. And we'll head into Maunder's Hope. Now, I had intended to try and keep these episodes around about 20 to 25 minutes. Oops, going way too fast here. Can I slow down in time? Probably not. So I'm going to have to try and lose some of this speed. There we go. So, came into that way too fast. Too busy talking. So, I tried to keep these episodes around about 20 minutes long. And I think this amount of jumps is probably just right, because the docking thing doesn't take too long. So, I think sort of a 3-jump round trip, about 66 light years this one's been, so that seems like a good length for videos. But like I said, with me not doing round trips every time, you may get shorter episodes occasionally, but don't worry about it, it's all good. We are very, very slow right now. I don't know why we are going so slow. I think we're probably proximity locked to that planet. Well, it gives me more time to talk sci-fi films. So, basically, generally anything science fiction related in a film is good. Like, I really enjoyed Prometheus. I thought they could have done more with it as a film, but I really did enjoy it anyway. If you haven't seen Prometheus, that's sort of the prequel to the Alien films. But I think anything that makes you think, and anything that's got some good... I want to say science, but it's not really science, because science fiction science is obviously different to real science. But anything that's got sort of believable science fiction science in there, I always really, really enjoy it. And I hook on something in me, sort of the explorer in me, and the need to know guy in me really enjoys that kind of stuff. Especially knowing a little bit about physics. Then anytime that a film has a good grounding in science that could be true, it always sits well with me and plays well. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. And I think that is about it, to be honest, science fiction wise. I enjoy anything really. Oh, well, not anything. A lot of science fiction crap gets made, and to me, it feels like the bad science fiction films are the ones that use bad science. Like, have you seen the Scarlett Johansson film that's coming out soon called Lucy? Now, it looks like a phenomenal action film. It looks great. It looks like a Michael Bay film, but without the special effects. But I have real issue with the science behind it. And I know that's a really stupid thing to say for basically an action film where you're supposed to just gawp at the effects and the action rather than actually think about it. But it does seem like it's trying to claim that it has a grounding in science, and that really, really annoys me because it clearly doesn't. It's like, one argument that people always levy is like, oh, you only use 10% of your brain or 15% of your brain, and that's utter bullshit. Your body doesn't only use 10% of your brain, or else what would be the point in evolution coming up with a device in your head that uses sort of 75% of your calories, blood flow, and oxygen, yet you only use 10% of it? What would be the advantage to evolution to doing something so monumentally stupid? That quote has obviously been misinterpreted from the fact that at any one time, when you're doing an action or thinking about something or trying to recall a memory, your body is probably only accessing 10 to 15% of your brain. But the 10 to 15% of your brain that it accesses at the time to do that task is all that it needs. And there'll be a different 10 to 15% that you'll use to, say, play the piano, and a different one that you'll use to recall a conversation that you had maybe 10 years ago. So I do take real issue with this whole, but you only ever use 10% of your brain. It's like, yes, sort of, only 10% of your brain at a time, but you do use every single part of your brain at one point or another. So I do take real issue with science fiction films, or just people in general spouting that line at me. So that's the thing about this this Scarlett Johansson sci-fi-esque film that's coming out that I really don't like the look of. Is it makes that claim that this girl Lucy only is now able to use 100% of her brain power, and that's why she can turn into some kind of, I don't know, some kind of super being. And I have real issue with that. So I think what makes a bad sci-fi film is bad sci-fi, sort of bad science. If it's got a good grounding in real science, it'll probably be a very, very good science fiction film, is the way I always feel about these things. I really do like some good science in my science fiction. But that might just be me. Some people might just like the spectacle and all of that stuff. I'm not sure, but I feel like I'm not alone. I feel like the successful science fiction films are the ones that have a good grounding in actual science. So that is going to be my time for today. We'll invest in some fuel. We will sell our cargo and see how much we have made. We are selling tea. We have 100 units here. We're making 500 credits per unit, so we're going to do over 50,000 on this leg, which means we've made a grand total profit of around about 130,000 credits. So not too bad whatsoever for about 30 minutes worth of work. And I said I wanted to try and keep these episodes to around 20 minutes, but it looks like 66 light years is around about 30 minutes, so I may have to change that for the next one. So if you've got any suggestions for topics of the next Space Truckers video, let me know in the comments section. If you want to add anything to the discussion on science fiction, TV series, videos, films, or games in general, again, take to the comments section. We can have a chat about that one. So thanks very much for watching episode number 1 of Space Truckers. I've been Maxwell. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time in the black with you, and I will catch you guys next time.